Imagine this. Your husband is murdered. Not by disease. Not by accident. But by another man, in public, with witnesses. You're dragged before a court. You're crying. You expect justice. Instead, the judge gives you two choices. Marry the man who killed your husband. Or, watch him hang, and lose everything you own. This wasn't a nightmare. This wasn't a myth. This was law. And the worst part? Many women chose the marriage. Why would a society create such a law? Why would a widow agree to it? And what kind of world makes this seem reasonable? Stay with me, because the answer is darker than you think. Before we talk about the law, we need to understand the world that created it. Medieval Europe was not obsessed with justice. It was obsessed with order. Life was short. Violence was common. Revenge killings could destroy entire villages. If one man killed another, it didn't end there. The victim's family wanted blood. The killer's family wanted protection. Feuds lasted generations. So medieval rulers asked a terrifying question. What if justice isn't about punishment, but about stopping revenge? That question gave birth to one of the most disturbing legal ideas in history. But to understand it, we need to talk about who women were considered to be under medieval law. In medieval legal systems, especially early Germanic and Anglo-Saxon law, a woman was rarely seen as an independent individual. She was legally her father's responsibility, then her husband's property, then a problem. When a husband died, the widow didn't gain freedom. She lost protection. Without a husband, she could not easily own land. She could not defend herself legally. She could not survive economically. A widow was a destabilizing force. And medieval society hated instability. So lawmakers didn't ask, what does the widow want? They asked, how do we neutralize the danger? And that's where the law of the noose begins. What if killing a man didn't just cost you your life, but forced you into marriage? Let's break down the law itself. Across medieval Europe, many legal systems followed a concept called weregild, literally meaning man price. Every life had a value. Kill a peasant, pay silver. Kill a noble, pay much more. Kill someone important, you might not afford it at all. If you couldn't pay, you died. But there was a complication. If a man was killed and left behind a widow, money alone didn't solve the problem. Why? Because she lost her provider. She lost her social shield. She could demand revenge. So some regions introduced a horrifying alternative solution. The killer could marry the widow. By marrying her, he absorbed responsibility. He prevented blood feuds. He kept land and wealth stable. He avoided execution. To medieval lawmakers, this wasn't cruelty. It was conflict management. Picture this happening in a 12th century village. A man named Edric kills another man during a dispute over land. The dead man's wife, Alice, is now alone. The court summons everyone. Edric is guilty, no debate. The judge turns to Alice and asks, will you accept marriage? Or demand the noose? If she demands death, Edric is executed. His family may retaliate. She becomes a poor widow. Her children may starve. If she accepts marriage, the killer lives. She keeps the land. She remains protected. Violence stops. This was not a choice between good and evil. It was a choice between survival and justice. And survival usually won. But here's where it gets darker. Sometimes, the widow wasn't even asked. In some regions, especially under feudal systems, the widow's consent was irrelevant. Why? Because land mattered more than people. If a husband died, his land had to remain productive. His estate couldn't fall into dispute. His lord needed stability. So the solution was forced marriage, not as mercy, but as administration. The killer didn't marry out of love. The widow didn't marry out of forgiveness. They married because the system demanded it. This is where the term law of the noose comes from in folklore, not a formal legal name, but a brutal summary. Marry, or hang. Imagine sleeping beside the man who killed your husband. Every night. Eating with him. Raising children with him. Sharing a bed with him. And knowing the law did this. Society approved it. God supposedly allowed it. There was no therapy. No trauma language. No escape. Just silence. And obedience. So why didn't the church stop this? Or did it secretly approve? The medieval church publicly preached forgiveness. And on paper, forced marriage violated Christian ideals. But in practice, the church often blessed these unions. Why? Because marriage prevented revenge. Marriage stopped chaos. Marriage preserved order. And order mattered more than morality. Some clerics even framed it as divine redemption. The killer becomes a husband. The widow becomes forgiving. God restores balance. This wasn't faith. It was social control dressed as holiness. But here's the twist most people don't know. Sometimes, the widow used this law as a weapon. In rare but documented cases, widows manipulated the system. How? By demanding marriage, then controlling the outcome. Some widows forced the killer to surrender land, used marriage to protect children, later appealed for annulment, survived where resistance meant death. This doesn't make the law humane. It proves something more disturbing. Even inside oppression, people adapt. But adaptation doesn't equal justice. So when did this law finally die? And what replaced it? By the late medieval period, centralized courts grew stronger. Blood feuds became less tolerated. Women slowly gained legal recognition. Execution replaced negotiation. Prisons replaced payments. The law of the noose faded, not because it was immoral, but because the state found better ways to control violence. Justice didn't improve. Power just changed hands. You might think this is ancient history. But ask yourself, how often do systems force victims to compromise? How often does stability matter more than truth? How often is survival mistaken for consent? The law of the noose wasn't about marriage. It was about control. And control never really disappears. It just changes its language. So next time someone says, "At least we're more civilized now," ask yourself, are we? Or did we just learn how to make cruelty sound reasonable?